If you ever see a woman dancing on your street every night, ignore her at all cost. I'm warning you, I found out what she's doing. She twirls around, her feet bare, the white nightgown soaked from the rain. Her hair is sticking to her forehead. Normally it's shiny and bright red, now almost black. So far, I've seen 3 women dancing before her. They were all dead by the end of the night. And nobody ever went outside to help. The first woman appeared a little over a week ago. It was a quiet night. My parents were sitting in the living room, watching TV with my aunt. She'd arrived a few days earlier for my 18th birthday but decided to stay a little longer. She didn't visit very often, so I was really excited about that. I couldn't hear anything, but when I opened the door to my room, I saw the flickering of lights downstairs. I'd gone to my room right after dinner because I wasn't feeling too well for some reason. My stomach was turning and my body was heavy. I crawled into bed and was fast asleep before I could form one other coherent thought. Until the pain in my stomach woke me up just after midnight. After throwing up half of my dinner and brushing my teeth, all I wanted was to fall back into bed. But that's when I heard the sounds outside. It was a soft tapping accompanied by a quiet humming. Hearing anything at all at night was completely out of the ordinary, as we live on the quietest street in the country. So I walked up to my window and couldn't believe what I was seeing. The sounds came from the feet of a young woman. She was dressed in a black leotard and tights. Her hair was neatly put up in a shimmering bun and her movements resembled the one of a ballet dancer. Her body looked fragile but her movements were soft. I kept watching her, mesmerized by her dance while also wondering what was going on. Our neighbors are all very stuck up, as I said. Normally you don't hear a single sound at night. I wanted to go downstairs to see if my parents or aunt were still awake so they saw what I was looking at. I was sure they wouldn't believe me if I told them the next morning. Something surprisingly non-ordinary happening on Jackington Street. But then, before I moved away, the woman started doing something different. First, her expressions became more hollow. Her eyes opened almost as wide as her mouth, as if invisible strings were pulling them to the edges of her face. But despite the strange look, she didn't stop dancing, but it became far more rigid. She'd move one leg forward, then the other. Finally, she fell to her knees, her head bowing down as she hugged her shoulders, the bones sticking out underneath the skin. My breathing became heavier as I realized that this wasn't simply a weird moment, but that something was really wrong. That's when she released her arms and looked up. My lights weren't on, but I could swear she was staring straight at me. And then she screamed. I stumbled back from the window and ran to my parents' bedroom. To my surprise, they were both awake with their lights on, standing behind their own window that had a similar view as mine. My mother whispered something to my dad. That was beautiful. I stood in their doorframe for a moment, frozen in shock, until I walked up to my parents. My father turned around and casually asked, "Oh, Andy, why are you awake?" He came up to me and met me halfway, blocking most of the view to the street. What I could see, however, was that a number of neighbors had turned on their lights when I walked from my room over to my parents. "Did somebody call an ambulance?" I asked. My mother shook her head. "No, but somebody came to pick her up." Then she smiled at me. "Don't worry, nothing bad happened. But she seemed sick or something. Definitely not right." My mother gently stroked my arm. "It's okay, really, honey. Are you feeling all right? I thought I might have heard you throwing up." I'd already forgotten about that. "Yeah, I'm fine, just surprised. Nobody's supposed to make noise at night." This time my father smiled. "You're right, but how about we talk about this in the morning? You should probably go back to sleep so you feel better tomorrow." I didn't want to go to bed before understanding what was going on, but at the same time I felt drained. I had difficulties even keeping my eyes open. I headed back to my room and looked down at the street again, except now it was empty. The next morning, I was woken up by the smell of pancakes. Apple cinnamon pancakes. I followed the scent to the kitchen, where my mother was standing behind the stove while my father and my Aunt Aubrey were sitting by the lavishly decked kitchen table. "Good morning, honey. Would you like some coffee?" my mother asked without a care in the world. "Sure," I mumbled. My dad was smiling. "Morning, buddy." My aunt didn't look up from her plate. "Did you see what happened last night?" I asked her. "No, your parents just told me though. Slept through it." "What? How?" I asked. "You could probably hear that scream 3 streets further." I sat down next to Aubrey and my mother poured me a cup of coffee. Aubrey shrugged. "Maybe I'll see it tonight." "Tonight?" I asked. Aubrey finally looked up and stared right into my eyes. "Aubrey," my father said in a stern voice. "What? He's gonna see it again, or someone will tell him. Come on, John, there's no hiding it." "Hiding what?" My father loudly sighed. "Always such a pleasure when you visit, Aubrey." Without asking, my mom started stacking pancakes on the plate in front of me. "Mom, I can do this myself. Sit down and eat something too. And can you please tell me what is going on? You're acting super strange." "Oh, your aunt is making this bigger than it really is. You know how we and our neighbors cherish nightly rest? How we make sure not to make sounds that anyone outside our home can hear?" my father asked. I nodded. "After 10, nobody makes a sound on our streets. It's been like this ever since I can remember. Well, every 10 years or so, the rules are bent a little. And when that happens, we see the occasional dancer at night. It only lasts a couple of days. After finishing that confusing explanation, he shoved a fork full of pancakes in his mouth as if to say that the conversation was over. Like it didn't create more questions than answers. It's not the occasional dancer. It's one each night, and they are all women, my aunt added. But why? And how have I never heard of it? Well, last time you were too young, buddy, and as it doesn't happen very often, people don't talk about it much. My aunt rolled her eyes but didn't say anything else. It's a tradition. Not more than that. And every 10 years really isn't often, my mother added, and with that the conversation was over and I was simply supposed to accept that this was normal. But well, before all of this, I also accepted that it was completely normal that our streets had to be completely silent at nights. Aubrey disappeared right after breakfast to meet some old friends. Mom went to the market and Dad went to work. Summer vacation had started a week before, so I had a bunch of free time on my hands and I was determined to learn more about this dancing mystery. I texted a couple of friends but none of them had any idea what I was talking about. Not even Rudy, who lived on the end of our street. But at least I had made sure that a couple of other kids would start asking their parents about this tradition we all had never heard of before. I wondered who else I could talk to about it. Aubrey would probably be the best option, but not with my parents around. My dad, especially, was acting super strange. When night came, I was determined to stay up. A new woman appeared just after 12. She was wearing a long, flowy dress and danced the foxtrot, alone. On the other side of our street, a light was turned on and I caught sight of a girl I hadn't seen before. She looked around my age, with dark red hair and an expression resembling mine. Shock. The dancing woman turned around and suddenly fell to the ground, holding her ankle and twisting her face. I couldn't see well, but it seemed like she had hurt herself. I hope you're enjoying this, she loudly screamed as she got back up and continued dancing with a limp. My heart started racing. I almost opened my window to ask her if she needed help, when two arms pulled me away from my window. Dad? I said, too loudly. SHHT. Andy, you're only supposed to watch the dancing. Do not interfere. He closed my curtains. Dad, what the hell? I whispered and my father looked like he might punch me. Then he took a deep breath and walked me to my bed. I know this is all very exciting for you, but we have special ways of how we do things here. You don't want to get us into trouble, do you? I don't understand. I heard a muffled scream coming from outside. Do you? He repeated in a stricter tone. I nodded. Ever since I was born, my parents had indoctrinated my mind with strict rules, but this one seemed even more arbitrary than the nightly silence. Dad sat there with me until it was over, not allowing me to take another peek. He said I wasn't allowed to watch if I couldn't follow his commands. The following day my parents and my aunt were gone before I woke up. I made myself breakfast but couldn't stop thinking about last night. I really needed to talk to Aubrey. Someone who had gotten out of here and might tell me the truth. I was pulled out of my thoughts when our doorbell rang. In front of it stood the girl from last night. Not the dancer, but the one I had seen through the window. Her eyes appeared bloodshot and she seemed really nervous for some reason. Hi, I'm Eliza, she smiled politely. Andy, right? Not sure if you remember me, but I used to come visit a couple of times when I was younger. Oh yeah, are you visiting your grandpa?